Hello and a very warm welcome to the Late Breaking F1 podcast presented by Harry Eade, Sam Sage and me, Ben Hocking. Another treat for you folks. All three members of Late Breaking here on a podcast that we run. How about that?
He has done it.
And we've got a season review to do today. Something, I guess, a little bit different to what we've done before, but we're actually going to try and use our memory. That can only go well, Sam.
This is literally a minefield for me. I have not got a very good memory and rely on you two heavily, usually. So recalling facts, I'm going to apologise now for how many things I might get wrong. At least it's not a quiz or a competition this time.
Hey, you did very well at back and forth remembering Fernando Alonso's wins. So
it's because it's Fernando Alonso. That is ingrained permanently.
He was in all of these races.
That's true. What a great correlating factor that is.
It's a valid point there.
I assume you're looking forward to being here again, Harry, twice in a row.
Well, you know, I'm here for my once a month appearance now on this podcast.
How much do we owe you for two? Because it's got to be going through the roof now.
My fees are quite extortionate, to be fair. Yeah, especially a double record.
We pay you per episode, unlike me and Ben, who earn once a year.
Can we just say as well now, because this is a double record, so we've just done Sunday's episode, folks. Obviously, you're listening now on Wednesday. FIA, if you've done anything stupid in the meantime, I swear to God.
We're trying to have a relaxing, fun time looking back at a season. We don't no drama today, folks.
But if the FIA does announce anything that is juicy news, I reckon we can pick that up on our Patreon episode on Thursday. Which, hey, I'm getting good at this, folks. 3 different tiers. Get on that. You can get your exclusive content. Now the FIA is not going to do anything, but never mind. Right. We're going to try and go somewhat race by race on this, some of which we'll spend a bit more time on than others, because as we were discussing before we started recording, there are some races where not a lot happened. For all those that love the 2023 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, firstly, why? Secondly, you're not going to be very happy with this, I'm afraid, because we are going to skip over that when we get to it. But let's start with Bahrain, when there was plenty of optimism in the air, particularly at Alpine. No, we're not going to talk about Alpine yet. But there was also a lot of optimism at Aston Martin, because they put together a very good preseason test. And the question was, going into the weekend, would that pace be converted into an actual race? And the answer was yes. I mean, Sam, we're not gonna go into best overtake of the season today, because that is going to be an Elby award. But that Alonso move on Hamilton is going to be a contender, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still scrubbing to try and get clean after how dirty it was. It was mighty, mighty filthy. But that wasn't the only highlight that came from the race, from what I can remember. That included both Aston Martins. And I mean both Aston Martins, because whilst Alonso was having mega battles, that battle with Hamilton, you know, where they went into turn 3 and Alonso almost lost the car and Hamilton ducked back under, and then they had that full battle through that sequence of corners. And it lasted for a couple of laps, which was fantastic. Alonso also battled, I remember, closely with Sainz, I think it was, and that had a pretty big ding-dong. Obviously, Leclerc retired.
Yeah,
he did well. He cut through the field well. But Lance Stroll,
on one
also
hand,
delivering some mighty fine overtakes and battling. You know, the classic pit stop, overcut, undercut, we don't know how the tyres are going to work scenario came into place. And Lance Stroll absolutely planted one around the outside of George Russell as well. So Aston Martin were big surprises when we came to this season. I was so shocked to be like, oh, wait, they are actually good. They weren't just not sandbagging in testing, and delivered on both fronts. They were fantastic.
What did you make of that, Harry? Because it was a bit of a question mark. We have seen before, you know, preseason testing doesn't necessarily carry over into real season pace, but at least from the first race, it seemed like it did for Aston Martin.
Yeah, I think the Aston, there was a lot of hype, wasn't there, around there, especially in preseason testing and even in practice, like Alonso was finishing P1 in practice. It didn't quite translate in quali pace, actually, because I think they were slightly disappointed. But obviously in race pace, Alonso was on fire, and obviously he got the podium. I've written little notes for each race, because I went back and watched the YouTube highlights. Thank you, F1, for those. Very handy. And I've written Alonso's filthy move, which I already mentioned. Again, still trying to scrub to get clean. Stroll almost killing Alonso, which I'd forgotten about on lap 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
What are you doing, mate? Almost ended it there. And then the Aston Martin being made of iron. Because not only did Stroll almost... Well, he like whacked into Alonso and neither car broke. Later on as well, Alonso trying to overtake Sainz, he hit him as well. But nothing... Just iron girders. Ridiculous.
Kind of tanks.
But yeah, I know obviously Verstappen won, but it felt like that Bahrain race was the Aston Martin story, wasn't it? They were the big story of the Sunday.
It was. I feel like to an extent it was a distraction story. It didn't intend to be, but it ended up being a distraction story because so much. You're right. So much of the focus from the race and that weekend was, this Aston Martin is pretty good. They weren't very good last year. What a turnaround. Fernando Alonso's actually going to compete for podiums. Meanwhile, the actual story was Verstappen dominated and Perez was a very comfortable second. And it was like, well, if that carries on, which it did, it might be a fairly processional season out front.
Yeah, it's a real metaphor to see one Ferrari retiring, one Ferrari fighting with an Aston Martin, and Max Verstappen was 18 seconds up the road. It really capitalized the entire season all in one moment.
Yeah, classic Ferrari. They spoiled it because we could have had an interesting Leclerc-Alonso fight for that last podium position. And Ferrari went, nope.
I feel like we haven't had a lot of Leclerc-Alonso content.
No, that's true.
Come on, Ferrari. Put it together for next year. So anyway, Verstappen took his one and only win at Bahrain. And we moved to Saudi. Oh, no, that's not how it went. Let's go to Saudi Arabia. So this was an interesting one where reliability, at this point in the season, we were actually questioning Red Bull a little bit. And one of the reasons why was Verstappen in qualifying went out in Q2 because his car failed on him, still recovered back to second place. But if you remember, didn't really make any inroads into Sergio Perez when he got to second place.
They call him Mr. Street Circuit.
Did you read anything into that, Harry, when we were there?
In terms of the reliability? Okay, when we were there.
Well, yeah. So, yeah. In terms of reliability for Red Bull and also in terms of Perez, very comfortably holding off Verstappen.
I think, we were potentially already clutching at straws. I'm splitting onions again.
Splitting onions.
Clutching at straws with a reliability thing because it was clear Red Bull were that quick. I guess we were then encouraged, even though Verstappen fought back and very easily. Like, I've again forgot this, and it didn't seem to happen so much later on in the year, but the DRS advantage they had on that Red Bull.
Madness.
When he flew past, there's a bit, he flies past, I think it's on the Sky commentary, he flies past Hamilton or Russell, this is Verstappen, and Martin Brundle just goes, what? Because he's so quick. It's like an F1 and F2 car. But but even though he got back up to second, Perez's performance was really encouraging because it wasn't like Verstappen was miles behind. He was there, like he was behind Perez, and Perez
soaked 5 seconds, wasn't it?
Yeah, like he was soaking up the pressure. So, yeah, I think the reliability thing, maybe it happened this similar way for Red Bull at the start of 22, didn't it? So we were questioning it then. Obviously, it didn't matter. Yeah. In my head, did Red Bull in Bahrain also have some gremlins? Obviously, it didn't affect them, but they had some reliability gremlins there, didn't they? So, yeah, I think we were desperate for anything to try and stop them winning. Yep.
And we had, Fernando Alonso claimed another podium, but only after a bit of controversy with Russell actually getting it on track, if you remember.
Oh, yeah. Alonso had like the messiest race in human history and still finished third. He finished third, then wasn't third.
Do you remember the clip where something was going on in the background and then Alonso is just spinning in the foreground and just kind of driving off slowly and like, ignore me, ignore the mistake that I made, which is so Fernando Alonso. But I think we all lived in a world of hope that it was going to be similar to the 2022 season. Remember when Red Bull had an absolute disaster reliability in the first few races and it was all unsure how well they're actually going to do. Is the weakness going to be the car? And then it was bloody bulletproof forever and ever and ever. Literally, when the nuclear war doth come, there will be 2 things left alive on this planet. It will be cockroaches and
the RB19
Red Bull car. Because it is indestructible. Verstappen once again showing his presence. But we were all living and thinking through that Sergio Perez was a legitimate title contender at this point, right? No, we did. Come on.
I did not. I never believed that.
I was cheerleader, the ringleader of the whole motive. He was really
Sergio Perez fan club.
And Harry and I were very much trying to bring him back down to earth, but he's spearheading it.
He was full of helium. Couldn't stop him.
He's flying away like a balloon.
Alpine sent me for a bag of chips this year, but Sergio Perez, bag of nothing.
Bag of air. Helium, mate. Ooh, I'm flying away.
For my notes for Saudi, I've put Stroll's another filthy move from Aston Martin around the outside. Again, filthy. And then Yuki's yell.
That is one of my favourite moments of the entire season. It might come up in the award ceremony.
And all of our listeners recreating it as well. Thank you.
Genuinely, as community moments go, you're all brilliant. That was great.
Australia, I've just noted down, most chaotic, boring race of all time.
Yes.
Well, at least we had chaos at the very end with the red flag, but actually, the race wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam.
I was to say, I just equate it. So I don't know if you've ever had to go to like an under fives football match before, where all the toddlers kind of run into each other and fall over a lot. But what you're watching is chaos, but it's also awful and nothing is happening. That is what that race was like. They're all falling over, banging heads. No one scored a goal. No one's touched the ball in a while, and they don't know what they're doing. And that is what Australia was like.
My notes for this one are Mercedes being 1-2, which I completely forgot about at the start.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah. That happened.
Yeah. Leclerc forgetting how big his car is, which he does once a year for some reason. And it was Australia this time, not Austria. And then Alpine lol. That was my last one.
The crashes that we had in that first section were absolutely ridiculous.
The one I remember, the thing I remember most from this race was actually Lance Stroll, because I might be getting some of the details slightly wrong here, but he had a crash, got away with it because of the red flag, had the opportunity to be on the podium maybe, going into turn 3 or 4, whatever that turn is, and then just decided
no brakes.
No brakes.
Also, was it Nick De Vries that absolutely punted someone right off of turn 1?
Logan Sargent.
Yeah, see you later, Logan.
You're my brakes today.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, good job, Nick.
Oh God, yeah, it was not a great race. It was just chaos at the end, wasn't it? The last 5 laps.
Yeah, I don't actually remember any of the main Grand Prix. I just remember the chaotic 5 laps of red flag crashing. Just the Alpine coming back onto the racetrack and then taking off your own teammate is pure Alpine, like it's vintage.
There's
vintage Alpine.
A shot of them as well, because they're crashed into the wall, and they've got like the same damage, like both missing the front wing, both missing their front right tire. It's like they've had the same crash.
And we're like, here we go.
In.
The war is starting between Alpine. And to be fair, I think they kept it together for the most part.
2024 is going to be war mode, don't you worry.
The war mode.
Azerbaijan was next, and as already mentioned, not a lot happened. Leclerc was good in qualifying. Verstappen and Russell had a crash in the sprint. Perez was good, and he won.
They call him Mr. Street Circuit. Look at him working.
The title charge continues.
Legitimately thought it was on. Said bang.
Yeah, I know, right? I was a fool. There's nothing else to say about Azerbaijan. It was dull.
That track is so confusing, because obviously the first time we went there, terrible, so boring. Second time we went there, chaos, brilliant race, loved it. Third time we went there, also very, very good. Fast forward, one of the most boring Grand Prix of the entire season. We thought, after Australia, we thought it's going to be more chaos. This is going to be brutal. And it was so dull. And we had a sprint race there, didn't we?
Yeah.
We did. Yep.
Yeah. Blimmin' heck. Well done, Chuck, for another pole, I guess.
We then went, obviously, the natural place to go after Azerbaijan is Miami before we go to Monaco.
Geographically very close, right?
It felt, I know we've referenced this a few times throughout the year. This was a bit of a kick in the teeth for Perez, wasn't it? He could have won this race with Verstappen starting 9th or back end of the top 10. And obviously Verstappen overtakes him on track to win. Very clean overtake as well into turn 1. I don't know.
That's where it stopped, right?
Yeah.
That's where it unfolded. I 2 things. I've already mentioned one. Red Bull DRS was mad. because it was ridiculous there again. And then how didn't Perez win? Like
When
he should have
that
won.
overtake happened on Perez, I'm surprised the whole world, especially in the highlights, it didn't just stop, go black and white, and start playing Gary Jules' Mad World. Because
That was it.
it may as well. It was that gut-wrenchingly bad for Sergio Perez to have not won that Grand Prix. Every card was on his side.
Two other random things to mention as well. This was the race where Alonso was watching Lance Stroll making overtakes.
Oh yeah,
Commentating on the right.
good move from Lance.
Go on, Lance.
And I remember qualifying. It felt like McLaren, who we'll get to a bit later on when things get more positive for them. Qualifying here at Miami might have been like the lowest low point before it started to get better. I know it didn't.
20th and 18th.
It was something, or they were both out in Q1, and it was just the start of the season hadn't gone very well for them, but they'd scraped some points at Australia, but it felt like this was like the real bottom of the curve. Like,
It shows you actually how quickly you can turn a Formula One season around. The fact that they went from that in Miami to, Lando fighting for a podium in Austria. There's not too many races between those. Yeah, that is a big turnaround.
yeah. We'll cover off Monaco before we go into our first break. Max Verstappen, he delivered a pretty good pole position lap, didn't he?
Why was this race one of the races of the season, please? It was one of the best Monacos I've seen in a long time. Like, actually good.
I know, a compliment from Sam about Monaco. I've written in capitals, if only they pit Alonso for Inters.
Right.
Oh,
I know.
The strategy blunder of the season.
Yeah, I think it could be. And then I just put Rain was chaos, lol, because I forgot. Like everyone just forgot at Mirabeau when everyone just slid off the that shot of people reversing back onto track and stuff. It was carnage.
Also, once again, and I give full credit to Monaco here, but it was the epitome of why normal qualifying is sensational, because that qualifying session might be one of the best qualifyings I've ever seen in Formula One.
I think I tweeted that at the time. I think it's the best qualifying session I've ever watched. Verstappen.
I might go back and watch it.
Yeah,
I might just watch qualifying again.
Yeah, rather than the race. Verstappen's lap was stupid. Like Sector 3, man.
People
I know.
But people go on about these big laps, Senna at Monaco, when Hamilton does at Singapore. I think that Verstappen lap might join that group.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not even the lap, because he was down during the lap. It was just Sector 3. It's just disgusting.
Just show the last 19 seconds.
Yeah.
Just imagine if we got that in races consistently.
No.
Goodness me.
I forget in my mind how close he was to those walls in that final sector, and it still blows my mind the speed he went through there.
I think, and I don't give too much time to the argument of, well, Verstappen had the best car, because guess what, folks? Nearly all the time the champion has the best car. But it's laps like that where you just want to just show, like, he good.
Because I think
got something
that, like, Ocon's lap was sensational. Alonso's lap was ridiculous, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is it! Alonso's going to be on pole." And then, Verstappen pulls out the bag.
That was probably the one race, though, that other than obviously Singapore, I think someone else should have won that Grand Prix. I think it should have been Alonso, but the door was wide open.
And I feel like at that point as well, because this was still in the midst of Alonso and Aston Martin being good, I think we were just, I don't know, under the false pretense that would continue throughout the whole year, and he would get another opportunity or two, and that it didn't matter that much that they passed up this one. And then, of course,
he never came.
He never got a better opportunity.
No. What might be sad is that might be the last chance Alonso will ever get a race win. We might have just watched it come and go.
Who knows? Right, this is a good point to take our first break. We've got we're getting into the European season right after this. Okay, welcome back. In the first part of this LB season review, we ended with Monaco, which means we're off to the Circuit de Catalunya for the new look Circuit de Catalunya as well.
Oh, yeah.
Worth mentioning. Mercedes were on the podium here. Both cars on the podium. The only time they achieved that all year.
They bloody love Spain. I have one note written down about Spain. They are Spain merchants. I've just got George Russell, high performance athlete. Sweat. Sweat. That's literally like that radio message will go down in the history of one of the best radio messages. Are other drivers reporting rain, or is it just sweat coming off my visor? No, it's just you. Like, iconic, iconic moment.
I also forgot that they tried to kill each other in qualifying.
They did.
Ran into each other.
So Mercedes.
Yep, picked up a double podium. And then the other thing I've noted down there is I had rain or sweat, ? And then I had Ocon trying to kill Alonso, which I completely forgot about. Alonso was trying to get past him, and Ocon like almost drives him into the pit lane.
Yeah, he did.
They hate each
They
other
do.
so much.
It was so unnecessary. I'm like, Ocon, what are you doing, mate? It doesn't matter. Everyone else is like, come on through, mate. Alonso's by me. I'm gonna kill him.
Murder. Obviously, the new / old corner for the last corner is so good. I'm so glad
So
we
much
got that
better.
back. Get that terrible chicane that we used to have. Thank God that's gone. And it was one of the better Spanish Grand Prix we've had for a while. From what I remember, the cars go well round here.
Last 2 or 3 have been all right.
3.
Yeah.
It's stepping. I saw someone say that, we've had this, we'll get on to it another time, but obviously Madrid confirmed for a street circuit. I don't know if Catalonia is the race to get rid of at the moment.
I hope that's not confirmed. Fingers crossed.
10-year contract.
A Madrid night race.
10-year
No.
contract.
No.
Yeah. It was, I imagine saying a few years ago, Mercedes only double podium. Oh, sorry, would get just one double podium in a season.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy indeed. So after the Spanish Grand Prix, went to Canada, where Verstappen won by a slimmer margin than he was winning other races, but that was still about 10 seconds or so. Alonso put a pretty good move on Lewis Hamilton from memory to finish second place. And I wanted to give Alex Albon some love on this one because he finished 7th and he just held up everyone.
That's the tactic he did all year.
It's pretty impressive given the fairly lengthy double DRS zone that he could do that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that move first from Alonso, though, because going down the inside of what was essentially the Wall of Champions to make that move stick was so unnecessarily brave and reckless at the same time. And it's so Alonso Hamilton. You know that they walked into a room afterwards and went,
Hey!
nice one. You got me there. I'll get you back next time. We've given it to him again. Honestly, those two put on a show a lot of times this season, and I bloody love it when they come together. It's so good.
I think that was one of my main takeaways. I know it wasn't all the time, but it's a pleasure to watch those two. I know they have all their
so
dramatics, but it's such a joy to watch them race each other because they're both such fierce competitors. And one of my notes here was Alonso's dramatics in the pit lane when they released Hamilton slightly in front of him and he pretended it was an unsafe and was like wobbling. And then it cuts to Toto going like this in the garage with it.
I forgot about that.
It's so good.
Toto shaking his hand.
So
That is sensational.
But the pair of them are like are both at it, and we saw in Abu Dhabi. I'm skipping it, but Abu Dhabi when he was trying to brake, so Hamilton didn't get DRS and all that sort of stuff. It's one of the highlights of the season. Again, it wasn't all the time, but when they were battling, it was a joy to watch.
Imagine them at the front again one more time.
I know.
Come on.
Also, my other note for Canada was De Vries being useless. Do you remember him trying to overtake the Haas?
Oh god! Oh, that whole
Crash with it was the worst crash I've ever seen. It took so long, and nothing actually happened.
And then they just like trying to reverse out together.
Yeah, I forgot how bad that was.
Oh dear!
Gosh, that was embarrassing. Really was.
Right. Obviously, we went from Spain to Canada back to Austria. That's how that works. Track limits penalties. That's what I've got written down for this one.
Yeah, I put so many pens.
FIA were trying to keep up, bless them, weren't they? It was like as if you needed speed or flash, whatever his name was, to keep up with the amount of track limitations that were going wrong there.
I think, and I can't confirm this, Esteban Ocon is still serving the amount of penalties he got in that race.
Hold on, let me just check my watch.
Oh,
yeah, still going.
Still going. I also wrote down here, if Spain, Mercedes are Spain merchants, Ferrari are Austria merchants. I put Ferrari were good here, Verstappen was better.
Yeah.
Because they were quite good, which I completely forgot about.
Charles Leclerc remembered the size of his car because he obviously confused Austria and Australia this year.
It's only those two. You can only
anything that's AUS is a nightmare at, apparently. Also, McLaren, the resurgence. We finally got the first glimpse of the new upgrades. Obviously, Piastri still had the old car. Norris had the new car, and it looked like it was working.
Well, I think that almost proved the point, didn't it, with Norris where he was and Piastri where he was, to say,
they working.
That'd be working.
Yeah,
that'd be working.
I feel a bit sorry for Piastri, but obviously it's got to go on one car if they're making it quickly. And it was great to see that we got that turnaround because it turned into a brilliant contender for obviously the rest of the season that we'll get to. I'm glad that McLaren were there.
This was also the weekend where it was the absolute perfect storm for Haas, because as we know, there are two things that Haas can't do: long races and tyre wear. So what did they do? They put on a sprint race at Austria and it was wet. So Hulkenberg was it was for a time
P2, mate, wasn't
looking like he was P2. Yeah. Because I remember thinking halfway through this race, no offense to Nico Hulkenberg, I really hope he doesn't finish on the podium here because people are going to count it and they shouldn't.
Yeah. I forgot as well, Verstappen and Perez were having a bit of a ding-dong at the start of that, weren't they?
They were.
First lap, yeah. Again,
Perez still desperately trying to hold on to any chance of a title fight.
Ooh.
Bang, fingernails gripping onto the wall as Verstappen standing over him.
Okay, from Austria, we go to Silverstone. Now, that actually makes sense. They're fairly close to one another. As you mentioned, Sam, Austria was the first glimpse we saw of the upgrades for McLaren with Lando Norris's performance. Here we had both cars with the upgrade. Lando Norris second, Oscar Piastri fourth, both of them competitive in qualifying as well. I think we can probably at least say this one was the start of the proper McLaren comeback. How impressive do you think were the duos, Sam, given the first half of this year, Norris wasn't in contention for these high finishing positions, and Piastri, of course, had never done it in an F1 sphere before?
Yeah, I think in a very strange roundabout way, Piastri was quite lucky that the McLaren was bad for the first 5 or 6 races of the season because, and I think we've alluded to this on a previous show before, but it essentially allowed Piastri to get out any mistakes, any poor running, any, I need to get used to this, I need to get my feet warm before the car was good enough to actually be the focal point of a Grand Prix. And then it comes around at Silverstone where he has got all the upgrades. And he's got rid of all his gremlins, He's managed to put himself in a consistent, strong performance because he's had a bit of practice behind the wheel. And now he's at the front and he delivered. Lando Norris did what we know Lando Norris could do. He was sensational. I think, if my knowledge serves me correctly, he had to overtake Piastri on track. And for a little bit, it looked like Piastri was going to be the lead McLaren until the safety car came out and essentially caused Piastri to be not thrown under the bus. That's a bit harsh, but it backfired on them because he didn't stop under safety car, did he really? And he got passed by, was it Hamilton that picked up the final podium spot?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, it was, yeah.
So Piastri, of course, was so close to picking up a podium pretty much on the first time of asking that he physically could have got near the podium. It was a fantastic run. And this was the dawning of what I think will turn out to be one of the best partnerships in Formula One. Piastri properly introduced himself on the world stage and did a brilliant job. Norris was exceptional and did what Norris does. And it just showed that you can turn around a Formula One team with a snap of a finger. It was so ridiculously brilliant how quickly they became. I always thought that they could go on to beat Red Bull at one point. That's how quick they suddenly got.
Well, they were the nearest challenger to Red Bull that weekend, so it's not a far stretch. The only other note I made about this race was the Norris-Hamilton battle towards the end, because Hamilton got put on soft tyres and Norris was on hard tyres, and Norris holding him off was pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, it was a great defensive performance.
I feel like this result from McLaren's perspective might be one, if things go well for them this 2024 and going forward, it might be one that they look back at as like, I don't know, a fond one to remember where it started almost.
Their season started at Silverstone.
It really did.
Yeah. Pre-season testing was Austria, and then they nailed Silverstone.
Nice.
Now, for the love of God, McLaren, 2024,
if
you show up at Bahrain and you are 16th and 17th, I swear to God.
It's desert races, mate. They can't do them.
Fair point. Very fair point. Right. So that was Silverstone. We then went to Hungary, where we didn't quite have the race that we had a year before, because I think it was our race of the season back in 2022. We did get the return of Daniel Ricciardo, though, which was, I think from his perspective, he was never really going to be fighting for much in that race specifically, but it was exciting to see, at least, I guess.
He had a good quality, didn't he? Because he got
right
into Q2 and I think out-qualified Tsunoda, so it was a fairly good comeback for him. Obviously,
He
didn't
had a
last
bit
very
of
long.
a disaster race, though, didn't he? Like, not through his own fault,
He
but
got
he was part of
punted,
the at the start of the Grand Prix, and he had to drive around with some damage, which was a bit of a shame. But I think we can all say now we've seen the full season that Ricciardo being in that car, pretty fair shout, right? The guy still got it. Guy's going to pull out a performance.
I wrote for Hungary. Hamilton pole, loses it immediately. All that hype around the pole.
Oh, yeah.
And then Alpine lol again. It wasn't really their fault this time, but still lol.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Another double DNF.
Yeah, that was tough. Yeah, a couple of things from this race. Firstly, Max Verstappen might have been his most dominant win of the season. Like, it was certainly up there.
Can you imagine the heartache for some of those fans who are, especially those Hamilton fans who think, hello, the GOAT's turned up. He's here on pole again. And not only did he lose it before turn one, I don't think he was even second by turn one.
No, it wasn't.
And then Verstappen won by one of the biggest margins we've seen in modern times. It was, a devastating Grand Prix for Mercedes.
I think there was just, excuse me, there was so much hype around his pole, which was justified because it was a great pole lap. And the thought of having Hamilton and Verstappen versus each other again, which we'd not had for a while. And it was all done. It was done in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff. So I'll tell you what, we'll take our next break at this point, and then we'll go on to Belgium after this.
Belgium.
Go for a little spa break.
Little spa Belgium.
Nice.
Spa Franken chops. Right, so after Hungary, Belgium, also known as Spa Frankenchops.
Sounds like a menu item you could get at a restaurant. Yeah, I'll have the sparkling water and I'll have a side of Spa Frankenchops, please.
a side to go with this sparkling water.
The sparkling water's always the main.
Yeah.
McLaren were very quick in the middle sector and nowhere else.
The Piastri sector.
The Piastri sector.
Yeah, they were banking on it because it was a rainy weekend, but the race
Yeah.
wasn't. But they were definitely banking on it being a rainy weekend because Oscar Piastri was unmatched in Sector 2 all
It was
weekend.
like 3 seconds
It was
faster.
stupid. It was stupid.
Because it was a bit damp as well, wasn't it? Like some parts of the track were a little bit damp, from what I can remember.
Yeah, but also Verstappen didn't start on pole. It was another sprint weekend, right? But Verstappen didn't start on pole for the race.
Was he?
Yeah, he was well down. Still won.
Yeah, he was so good as well.
Did he have a penalty, or was it lap invalidated, or something like that?
Oh,
Or was
I
it
can't
just
remember.
there on pace?
I don't because it was a wet qualifying, right? I can't quite remember. Maybe I had a penalty. I don't know.
I know Charles Leclerc got pole, and another Charles Leclerc pole to not win, but
Pole to Max Verstappen win conversion continues.
I
He's
imagine
still-
the Verstappen must have been a pure pace because there was no engine part at that point that he would have taken to drop into that number.
No, I don't know what that was. It must have been pace.
Doesn't matter because the points aren't on a Saturday, so he smashed it.
sadly enough for Charles Leclerc, he still held on for second, didn't he, Charles Leclerc, in that one?
But we had a sprint Grand Prix here. We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
And Piastri again looked phenomenal in that sprint Grand Prix.
Yeah, he was runner up to Verstappen, wasn't he? And was competitive throughout.
Yeah, until Sainz put him in the wall on turn one.
Well, I mean, for the sprint, but yes, for the race itself, not so much.
Yeah. I wrote two things here. Tsunoda did a lovely little move around the outside of Alex Albon at Lake Holm at the top of the hill, and then Ocon did it to him even better. If you go back and watch that, it's like Tsunoda's is great. Ocon's is disgusting. It's delightful.
I see your filthy move, and I raise you pure disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a positive weekend for Alpine overall, actually, because alongside that, Otmar Safnauer and Alan Permain both left.
Oh dear.
They saw Oscar Piastri get a sprint podium. Obviously, could have been an Alpine driver, and that's after seeing Fernando Alonso be very good all year.
Yeah, that's where that picture comes from, of Piastri smiling, talking with the points tally, and Alonso smiling in the background.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe we missed it. Austria, the bloody jetpack guy falling out the sky, and Piastri's reaction on camera is maybe one of the best parts of Formula One I've ever seen.
Might deserve an LB. Best reaction face of the season.
Like, iconic moment already, if you never went to achieve anything.
Zandvoort.
Oh boy.
Carnage, wasn't it?
Absolute carnage.
I enjoyed it, though.
I put
Yeah.
people not pitting for some reason when it rained. Alonso's lap 1 move down when everyone went around the outside and he just did the inside because he just does the opposite at that corner.
Yeah.
Joe being second for some reason and then not finishing the race.
Oh, yeah, he was so good.
And Perez leading by literally miles. I mean miles. He was so far ahead.
So far clear.
And Verstappen still won.
Oof.
Oh boy. But it was a good race.
And Gasly was third.
Yeah, Gasly got a podium.
Come on, the sausages.
Good lord.
Say that as you will.
Blimey.
I think that was a bit of a needed race as well, because we were coming off the back of a few pretty dull ones.
The season very much felt like that. She came in waves, didn't it? We had a couple of bangers and then it dropped off. Then we had another couple of bangers and then it dropped off. And I guess that when you've got a lot of people have stated it, and I don't know how you both feel, but when the title was decided so early, and we already knew at this point that it was running away with Verstappen, you have to have something else that makes it exciting.
Yeah. Do you also remember, in Zandvoort, how bad Ferrari were?
They were so bad.
Liam Lawson overtook Leclerc.
Yeah.
Oh, it was his first race, wasn't it? He was brilliant. Liam Lawson, brilliant, of course, inspired by Lightning McQueen, his hero. And, poo, what was I was going to say something absolutely brilliant. Oh, Logan Sargent got into Q3.
I was going to say something absolutely brilliant. and then it promptly binned it twice.
Yeah.
So he did make it through to Q3. Yeah, that was... Williams, I didn't expect them to be quick that weekend. And they just were.
They were weirdly good.
They confuse me so much. This is why I'm bad at predictions, because I try and run on kind of run of form or characteristics that make sense. So I thought, Williams, no chance they're going to be anywhere here. There's no point doing a bold prediction. They were almost on for a podium, it felt like, at one point. That's how close they were.
I feel like there was a runner that, apart from Red Bull, that was everyone this season. There was no... The form book never made sense for everyone else. You'd go race to race and someone else would be the second quickest. But that went, as you say, for people like Williams, who would turn up to a race, you go, well, they're not going to be quick here. And then they are.
Because Alex Albon was one of the drivers that just would not pit. And I feel there were a few others as well, like George Russell was one of them, and there were a couple of others.
Norris.
But I feel like Albon was the one that made it somewhat work. The others didn't. I think he stuck to it where others bailed out at the wrong time. But yeah, I remember thinking if he'd gone on to the same strategy as Zhou and Gasly, that's probably P2.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, and deservedly so. He was phenomenal on that race.
And then because they were quick there, Monza was next, and we were like, well, they're going to win it.
They're going to win, no doubt.
They've mastered corners.
Yeah.
They're already good at straight bits.
And then
They did not. They did not do anything.
I also had that race noted down as like a Fernando Alonso, Aston Martin, like retirement tour, in that it was like one last hurrah of that car before it was just awful for the rest of the year, comparatively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was excellent that race again. I watched that. He was on fine form.
Yeah, I know it came after a few like dodgy races for the Aston Martin. It's like, maybe coming back from the summer break, maybe something, and then not really. But it was you're right. It was a great performance from Alonso. Italy. Ferrari qualified well and Verstappen won. Not the first time we've said that.
Yeah.
No, I have one thing written down about this one, which is separate to the note that you laid, Ben, with that Verstappen broke the consecutive win record. I just put that Hamilton forgets size of car and drove straight into Oscar Piastri.
Yeah. Or just forgets Piastri exists.
Yeah, that works either way. Just disappears, ghosts. He thought he had ghost king on.
That Merc was rubbish as well.
It was pants, wasn't it? Straight lines this year, not been good. Not been good at the old straight lines. I
haven't been good at straight lines since the new regulations came in, really.
Yeah, fair. That's valid. I had two things written down here. I remember this distinctly when Verstappen didn't get pole and he was the least worried man in human history.
God, yeah.
He was so chilled about it, and rightly so, because he won. They had a bit more downforce on, didn't they? So they didn't chew their tyres up. And then the other bit, there's some great reactions from myself and Sam of Sainz and Leclerc trying to kill each other for about 10 laps at the end.
The stress!
That was so Ferrari.
It was so stressful. I mean, great battle to watch, but good lord.
Yeah. There were fewer Ferrari moments, I think, this year compared to last year, but that was up there. That really was up there.
Oh, Lord. Leclerc was driving like a man possessed. Like he just wanted that podium.
I want to win Monza again. Give me an illegal engine. That definitely wasn't illegal.
Oh. Oh, dear.
Sonoda just wanted to complete the formation lap and couldn't.
Couldn't even do that.
Oh, that guy went such a run of bad form. Not even bad form caused by himself at this point. Obviously, Zandvoort was a sucker. He just on the wrong strategy. Didn't go well for him. Italy could get off the formation lap. We're coming up to Singapore in a minute where Sergio Perez absolutely destroys his Grand Prix. It's just not been a good run this part of the season for Yuki Tsunoda.
Nice little segue into Singapore. We're going into the Asian leg of the calendar now. Red Bull didn't win.
We had a different answer.
There's so much that happened in this race that my brain is a bit fuzzled by it, but what a Grand Prix it was.
I mean, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton, Norris within like 3 seconds of each other or 2 seconds of each other, battling for the win at the end of the Grand Prix. Yes, please.
I just put, I think it is, and we'll obviously do this in LBs, but I think it's race of the season for me. It was that battle alone. I mean, it went on forever. It went on for like the whole race. And yes, as you say, Ben, yes, please. More of that.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure how to phrase this one, but if this was a different, credit to Singapore, because if this was a different circuit, I feel like the Mercedes wrap this up a few laps to go and it's not quite as exciting.
Yeah, that's fair. Agreed. Also, Sainz being a genius with DRS.
Right?
Yeah.
Sainz is an absolute genius. And I love that Norris clocked onto it as well because he knew that he was in danger if it wasn't working. But it's just the case of you don't need to make passes for the league for something to be exciting. This is the epitome of that argument that overtakes don't always make for a fascinating Grand Prix. And this was strategically a masterclass. It was so exciting to watch. Heartbreak for Russell, though, obviously slamming it into the wall after we watched Norris in front clip the wall, who arguably is about a centimetre away from ruining his own race. But yeah, what late drama, it had everything. It was brilliant.
Yeah. To your point, Sam, yeah, not every great race needs to have a huge amount of overtakes. And like I say, if there was a DRS-enabled straightforward pass option for the Mercedes duo, I don't think that's anywhere near as exciting. It still would have been, I think, one of the best races of the year, don't get me wrong, but the fact that you had so many cars so close to each other right at the end, that was great. And yeah, as mentioned, not in this episode, I think we mentioned it last episode, Charles Leclerc not able to capitalize on the one race that he might have been able to win.
Yeah. Also, Sergio Perez with the most disgusting overtake attempt I've ever seen in my life on Alex Albon. It
wasn't a good one, was it?
Oh my God.
Between this and Japan, the guy had an absolute failure of understanding what an overtake was. He was just on a murder mission at this point.
That's literally, for my Japan notes, I just put Perez with more murders. Because he carried on in Japan.
Sorry, was it Magnussen he just drove into the side of?
Yeah. Just that was a bad run of form for Sergio.
I think with Perez as well is that typically he has struggled in the European middle of the year. He did that last year. He did that this year. So it's nothing different. But Singapore, obviously street circuit, he won there last year. I think it was almost more disappointing for him not being able to convert into a good race where we know he can.
Yeah.
When Max Verstappen isn't the one winning, you've got to be the guy, surely.
And let's move on to that. Sergio Perez takes his penalty before retiring, so he murdered someone and then somewhat got away with it.
Yeah, I forgot that.
Oh, I think this is the biggest farce, maybe other than the FIA at the end of the season that we saw all year. I think, this still feels like it feels like a bit of a joke that you're allowed to get away with that. I'll come out of my retirement, do a lap, serve a penalty, retire again. How does that help anyone in this sport?
Also, I think that showed what sort of race it was, because it was quite a dull one, and they focused on that so much on the coverage. I was like, well, if this is what we're watching, then this is not an exciting race. Also, weird team orders from Mercedes, and obviously the Alpine team orders right at the end.
Yeah,
weird stuff.
I just think it hammers down that Suzuka is such a brilliant track to drive, but I'm not sure how good of a race it produces at the moment. It's been a while since we've had a banger of a Grand Prix there.
And to be clear, I'm not looking for any sympathy from non-Europeans. I fully appreciate we get it very, very good here in Europe. But when you have a race like that at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's all the more difficult, isn't it? Yeah. Right. Should we take one last break for today, and then we'll see off the last few races of the year?
Yeah, go on in.
Okay, we're into the final stretch. Last 6 races of the year, and we'll start with Qatar. Don't remember much happening at Qatar. No controversy whatsoever.
As races go, pretty dull.
Yep. Bit hot, wasn't it?
It was hot, and there were a lot of pit stops.
Oh, yeah, the tyres. I forgot that bit. They had to do 2 stops. 3 stops?
It was 3, I think, wasn't it?
Jesus.
If you remove the safety issue of the drivers, obviously in their flat-out Grand Prix, as a weekend, it might be the most entertaining weekend of Formula One this season. The sprint race was good. The controversy with the track limits that they had to change, the tyres not working properly, the exhaustion for the drivers, the pit stops. It had a lot going on.
Hamilton, again, for the second time this year, forgetting where other cars
Just crashing straight into Russell. My teammate took me out, man.
They could have. I know we've already referenced that Mercedes have only had 1 double podium all year. This could have been another one.
It probably would have won Verstappen, but I think they could have given Verstappen a headache that race.
Russell was quick.
Yeah, exactly. And Russell obviously spun, went to the back. Did he have damage as well? And like say, he was rapid coming back through the field. So yeah, I genuinely, maybe this was Mercedes' best. Well, obviously Singapore, but other than Singapore, maybe their best chance of a win.
Yeah, I think it's certainly up there. I just remember the race itself. Obviously, we had the mandated stops, and you couldn't do more than a certain number of laps on a tyre. I remember just trying to keep up with it, and this might have been the race where I was, and I appreciate it was difficult, but the race where I was most furious with the commentary team, because Valtteri Bottas, who squeezed a couple of points out of this Grand Prix, did not need to pit 4 times. But the amount of times it was said, I was like, no, he doesn't need to pit again. He's already done that. No. For the whole race.
I understand it's a lot to keep up with, but if we're at home able to keep up with it, whilst not having half the information that they get, come on, get on with it. But also, we've said it before, but big up to Logan Sargent for being the person that properly took himself out of the Grand Prix and went, this is unsafe, and I don't feel good about it. And I still think it's a very brave and admirable thing to do, because some drivers came out and said that they were passing out in their car, which is terrifying.
Yeah, I think it was a very brave thing for him to do. And actually, if we're just looking at performance, I think he was pretty quick that weekend.
Yeah.
Like he was solid.
I think he probably could have maybe gone to beat Albon that weekend. He was right there with him.
There were a couple of them towards the end of the season with Sargent, weren't there? Where there were just a few glimpses that he might be able to take qualifying away from Albon or finish just ahead of him. And
Kota, another one, right, where he was so close.
Yeah, there were a number that didn't ever quite materialize, but he was close. And this, I think, was one of those. But obviously, heat exhaustion got in the way for himself and others. I'm interested to know how Qatar's going to be remembered. Like, is it just going to be remembered as that stupidly hot race? Is it going to be remembered for the tyres? Is it going to be a mixture? I don't know.
It was a real drama fest, and it had everything. Obviously, Piastri winning the sprint race as well. The McLarens looked great. Norris bottling qualifying. Mercedes coming together, the tyres, the track limits were a problem, the exhaustion. It had so many factors to it. Any one of those, any other Grand Prix weekend would have made it exciting, but that one had about 9 different variables.
Yeah. Right, let's go to, and I can actually say let's go to because we went there. Austin.
We love you, Austin. Stay weird.
First LB race together.
Which is ridiculous, isn't it? How ridiculous is that?
It was nice. It's very nice.
I realised we said this, that we'd never watched a race together. We had watched a race together, not obviously at the circuit. Portugal 2020.
We have.
Which I completely forgot about. Anyway.
It's a rogue one.
Yeah. Kota was excellent. Not just because we were there, but it was actually a pretty decent weekend.
I appreciate we're going to be biased on this, but it was actually a good race, wasn't it?
There's so many things that I don't fully remember, though, because I was so overwhelmed. The fact that we were being there and the fact that we did a track tour, we got to go in the Aston Martin garage. I'm so overwhelmed by the amount of cool beep words that happened on that weekend. I'm still blown away by it. But the racing was great. Some of the overtakes we saw, again, we've already mentioned it. Stroll absolutely planting it, going down to, was it turn 10, turn 11? The racing was phenomenal. Hamilton and Leclerc being disqualified for the infringements on their cars was crazy. It had a lot going on.
I would put Stroll coming back from Qatar on Ricciardo, and then also McLaren's best chance of a win? Question mark? Potentially?
Maybe. It's certainly up there.
Yeah, that and Qatar were pretty close.
Also, and I hate to say it, get rid of the sprint race, and I think that's a better weekend.
Yes.
It did emulate the sprint race because bigger, didn't it?
And I'm not even like generic hating on sprint races like I normally do. It's that really didn't help the Sunday race.
It was the worst sprint. As we've said enough times, it was the most normal sprint race we ever had in terms of weather, track positions, people just starting in a normal place, and it played out exactly how the race was going to play out.
I just remember like the overwhelming dread of seeing the Ferrari struggling on Saturday and being like,
no.
Going to be hotter on Sunday.
And they started signs on softs, which worked for approximately 5 laps.
It's a great strategy again, Ferrari.
I could just remember being in the stands, like looking. There was one lap in particular where rather than being closer to the car in front, he was then closer to the car behind. I think I might have turned to you, Harry, and just went, yeah, here we go.
Oh, no. Oh, dear.
He actually held on more than I thought he would, but yeah, not a good one. Right, Mexico came after that. Sergio Perez tried his best into turn 1. It was a bold move.
He
Didn't
did
pay
so
off.
well.
Do we? I don't know. I get trying to make that move, but equally, nah, it wasn't on.
It wasn't on, was it?
He went one step too far, didn't he? It was a really good start, and then he just tried to push his luck too far in that first corner. And I think if he was just patient, he had the determination to possibly challenge. You know, if things had gone, I wouldn't have been surprised if Verstappen had been I don't know, but a little bit of I've slipped, or I'll let Checo come through.
Sure.
But he threw it away so quickly. You can't win a race on turn 1, but he bloody lost it, didn't he? It's so frustrating.
Because he started 5th, didn't he?
Yeah, he was up alongside first by turn 1.
Yeah, mad start. AlphaTauri were very good. Aston Martin were not very good.
Well, this was the weekend of our worst predictions ever made. Because I said Perez was going to win. Sam said Aston Martin's in the top 6 or something. And then Ben said...
it was
Ocon,
really.
Yeah. It was starting the plan.
Top 4 or something for Ocon, and he came 10th.
Which wasn't looking like it was going to be that good for most of the race.
No.
Yep. Ricciardo had a stellar race here, which was bad timing for Perez, but yeah, excellent race.
Yeah, and was it Norris versus Was it Norris overtaking Russell?
Yes, that was filthy.
Russell or Ricardo?
It was Russell. He did it to both of them, but the Russell move was he sent him for a bag of chips, didn't he?
Oh, it's an incredible move. Yeah, he absolutely launched it. Was it down the inside of turn 4?
Yeah. It was like the chicane, wasn't it? He cut back on him. It was saucy.
Yeah. And it was about a millimetre between his front wing and the really good move. And tops to Ricardo, who all of a sudden that AlphaTauri looked competitive again.
I mean, that was the race where Norris should have qualified better, Scrub, because he was so quick coming through the field.
Yeah.
He went on a little run here of bottling it when it mattered. And it raised some concerns, I think, that we spoke about of can Norris do enough when the pressure comes down to ever be a top driver? I mean, his race performances are so amazing, but he needs to start getting it right to springboard himself into actual success rather than just recovering.
Also, Kevin Magnussen just watching his crumpled ass burn from the sidelines.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, dear.
3 to go. Brazil. Alonso and Perez were quite close at the line, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I just put in capitals Alonso for Brazil.
What a fight. What a fight that was. So good.
And I think Brazil, and well, not Brazil, the country, but the Brazilian Grand Prix itself can consider itself a little bit lucky that happened, because if that didn't happen, there was not a lot to talk about.
No, the other highlight I've got written down is it completed my weird driver photos when they got on the track of Charles Leclerc walking awkwardly next to all the signs in the infield.
Oh, poor Charles.
Photographers looking at him like he's some kind of wildlife that's been caught outside.
And here we see a wild Leclerc.
A Ferrari in its natural habitat.
That felt like the race for me where Charles Leclerc ran out of reactions. Like, he just ran out of things that he could react to. He could react about. Like, he just, what is there left to say or pull an expression over?
So just give me a race-winning car, please, now, at this point.
But yeah, Alonso Perez. That was the clear highlights from that one.
Good Lord.
Not much to say about Las Vegas.
Nah, nothing.
You know what? Absolute surprise of the season. Underrated banger, I think. I enjoyed it. Now, I've looked back at it recently, and I liked it a lot more than I thought. A lot of DRS moves, but I think they really got the DRS right. And I know that was a big concern going into this Grand Prix of, do they make the DRS too long and all the moves get done halfway down the straight? But for the most part, we saw some good late braking moves going into some heavy braking zones. And that Leclerc move on Perez, who was caught napping twice, I think, that race. You know, brilliant move, but also disastrous from Sergio.
Yeah, it was a great move. I have written no grip GP, which only lasted really the first few laps. And then also Alpine trying to kill each other and their weird team orders.
Oh, Alpine.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a complicated weekend to try and break down, because the expectation, well, not even the expectation, but the anticipation was so high based on everything going into this. And then we had obviously the practice issue. And it really, really needed a good race. And it got one. It was, you're right, it was a really good race. I think it was one of the better ones of the season. And it's a good thing they got it.
Yeah, 10-year deal. Also, just want to say, the Sphere, baby.
Oh, yeah.
I love that big giant dome.
I don't know why I'm putting so much optimism in F1, because normally they don't repay me. But I feel like they're going to, I don't know, they'll adjust for year 2. And I think they'll keep all the best bits and lose some of the stuff that they don't need. And I don't know, I've got optimism that it's actually going to turn out long-term to be all right.
Driving the drivers, the top 3 drivers, to the hotel and driving them back again?
Exactly that.
I get why they did that. It was to bring the podium thing in. But I think Liberty have been good at that since they took over Formula One, which was go all out. Some things aren't going to work, and then we refine. And I'm kind of okay with that as a strategy.
Yeah, it's fair.
A quick mention. Bruce Buffer shouting at Sergio Perez.
Oh, yes.
He looks so confused.
Why are you shouting in my face?
That's my game. What more do you want? Do I need to reply? Do I say yes?
Oh, God.
I never thought we'd get a face to rival the face that he made in the press conference a few years ago, but he tried. Also, bring those back, please. Great banter.
Yeah, the videos of the press conference. Why did they not do more of those?
They were... I don't think they intended to be, but they were hilarious.
Everyone was so bored.
And that just leaves us with Abu Dhabi.
Oh. Not much to say here, is there?
No.
That's a good season, folks. Cheers.
The only note I had was Hamilton and Alonso playing DRS chicken, which I've already mentioned. So that was my only note.
Once again, it's Hamilton and Alonso on track next to each other, and we get great drama, slightly dodgy racing, but it was one of the better parts of a very dull Grand Prix.
And also Alonso being mad at being slow in a straight line.
He was mad. Yeah.
And then immediately overtook someone in a straight line.
Okay.
Russell had a good race finally.
Yeah, wait until the end of the season. Cheers, George.
What else happened? Anything else happened there?
Leclerc trying to do the strategy of holding up Perez or...
Yes, the maths.
Good banter.
Yeah. Also, for people watching on video, the sun, the heavens have opened again on Ben.
It was... Stop it.
The second coming of Ben.
It's too close to the end of the episode doing anything about it.
Nah, just leave it out.
Yeah. It was so dull earlier.
Ben Hochrist.
That's great.
Wearing a Texas jumper.
Yeah. If you had to give a quick synopsis of the season, Sam, just everything rolled into one, how would you summarize it?
Verstappen, incredible. McLaren started from the bottom, now they're here. Alonso still got it. Alpine, no plan.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Completely fair. And anything from you, Harry?
I'll just add to that. Mercedes need to be better.
What are you doing?
What do you do? Haas can only do qualifying.
Gotta go fast.
In qualifying.
I don't want to be a downer, but I'm going to be. Quite comfortably worst season of the last 4 years.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yep.
I think there are still lots of great stories from this season. And like you say, as we said, you said at the start, Ben, like Bahrain, we were already looking for the other stories because we could see how quick Red Bull were. So there's still great stories, but just it had so many glimpses of being good, and they just never quite came together. And again, I don't think this is from Verstappen winning all the time, because I don't think that necessarily means you're having a bad season.
Yeah.
But
Like the biggest compliment I could pay Max Verstappen is that if we removed him from this season, the amount of different winners we would have been fantastic.
yeah.
See, it would have been good to see, and this is maybe controversial. I think if you take Red Bull and Max Verstappen out of this season, it's still not a very good season.
Because there weren't there. Yeah, you get more winners.
Race to race, I mean.
Yeah, but I think the actual races just didn't-
God, folks. Honestly, sorry. Ben's just waved his hand in front of the sun and I'm blind.
Perfect. Ben, stay like that. Yeah, it's some of the races were poor. I mean, like Azerbaijan, like we've already said, we skipped over it. Azerbaijan, that's always chaos, and nothing happened.
We actually had a couple of okay ones towards the end of the year, where if we didn't have that, there was a long run in the beginning to 2/3 of the way through the season. We had Zandvoort, which was very entertaining, and I feel like we really needed that because that was coming off a run of some not many good ones.
Zandvoort and Singapore, they helped.
Yes,
It was a bit of a dodgy period. And then Qatar and USA were good again. And Mexico was all right. But then, yeah, they were littered with dull processional Grand Prix where even the overtakes that were happening were just DRS straight passes that were done. And it still got its problems.
I don't think it's... Yeah, Ben's now moving his head in front of the sun. I don't think it, because I know a lot of people are quick to say, like, this is the new formula. This is the formula. This is the new formula that's not worked. Was that this year? This is the formula? Or was that last year?
Yeah, it was this year.
Good Lord.
Is that Miami?
Yeah. But I think that's unfair. I think that's unfair because we're still getting better races than we did. I'm not saying in the past, like say 4 years, but you go back I don't know, to the noughties or something back in those days. I think we're still in a better place.
Oh yeah.
I actually think some of it is this year has been like circumstantial. Like I say, there've been lots of glimpses of this could be a banger, and it's just not worked out like that. Like Hungary, for example, Verstappen doesn't get to turn 1 first. I think we're on for a belting race. Like it's just those sort of things that just didn't go the way the cookie didn't crumble the right way.
Do you think there's reason to be optimistic for 24?
I think so. I hope so.
if these things come true, such as Christian Horner saying that the effects of the penalty haven't been felt yet, if that's true, if they do feel those effects, sure. If Aston Martin, McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari all understand their gremlins and can put it together, in a perfect world, we could be in for an absolute thriller. The stars don't often align, so I'm not going to put any money on it, but it could be better. I would struggle to find it be worse, actually. This really wasn't an all-time season.
I think, look, Red Bull are still going to be up there, but this is these sort of seasons are anomalies, like 19 out of 22 races for Verstappen, 21 out of 22 for Red Bull. We have these, like, Ferrari used to do it and Mercedes 2020 vibes, but the dominance always comes to an end. Like it just does. So whether that happens next year, I'm not saying it will, but you'd expect the rest to be closer.
I think there's still a little bit of a ceiling on how good a season can be at the moment, just based on I don't think the formula is quite where it could or maybe should be. Like you're right, it is way better than it used to be. But at the same time, I don't think we're where we were at the beginning of 22. I remember Bahrain and Saudi Arabia being such a breath of fresh air because you could get such close fighting. And I feel like, and it's natural, the teams have cottoned on and done everything they can to, make their cars difficult to follow again. And I think a lot of that work they've done has just, I don't know, diluted what we've got at the moment a little bit. Yeah. But I think there's reason to be more optimistic for next year. We had a weird year where McLaren were good for 50% of the year. Aston Martin were good for 50% of the year. Ferrari were not as good as they were the year before. And Mercedes were simultaneously really bad and still second place, which should probably tell you that there just wasn't one consistent challenger.
Yeah.
If we can get one of them, maybe even more than one of them, to be in that sort of place, then maybe we'll have something a little more entertaining next year.
Oh, fingers crossed, folks. But we're here in the winter break now, in the cold, in dark.
Cold. Well, not with Ben, is the sun's blazing.
Well, yeah.
So, apparently, he's still in Marrakesh.
my head's really warm.
Back of his head's cooking.
I'm on fire back there. You can't see it.
Got a gammon going.
Right, so that does it for the season review. Bit of a first-time thing, so we'd be interested to know your thoughts on whether you think this was a good format for us to do.
Have we wasted an hour of all of our time?
If we've wasted an hour of your time, apologies, let us know, and we won't do it again next year. But we still have LBs coming up this year.
The LBs. That is our awards ceremony for anyone that's brand new, and we do many things like Hall of Famer. We do things like Best Overtake, Best Radio Message. There's loads of other great LBs that come out as well.
And you can vote for a Hall of Famer. You can vote for a Hall of Famer now. I think now. Should be now.
Sure. Say now.
Yeah. So yeah, now. Who do you think belongs in the late-breaking Hall of Fame? It could be for any reason whatsoever. Just
Ben,
to
give us some examples.
Yeah. So we've done 2 full years of inductees, and the way that we work it is we each get a nomination and we do one by the fans. So 2021, of course, Harry voted for Shaquille O'Neal. Sam voted for Dave Benson Phillips. I voted for Yuki Tsunoda, and the fans voted for Harry's fire alarm. And then last year, Sam voted for Jean-Pierre Jabouille, or Jabouille, as anyone would call him. I voted for Sam's cat, Ian. Harry voted for his own microwave, and the fans voted for beef. So if you think, this suggestion might be too random, no, that doesn't exist.
Because there's quite a selection of people in that Hall of Fame currently.
How many of them are people?
We should just imagine
Well,
the
that's
round
fair.
table of our Hall of Fame.
Isn't Yuki Tsunoda in there?
Yes.
We've got five people, 2 appliances, and a cat.
Oh, a great time. They have a party. They won't burn anything down when they microwave something for too long, and they've got a cat to cuddle.
Exactly.
Perfect.
I think the LBs will end up being. It gets really confusing because everything just goes into a mess when we double record. I think the LBs.
It's on Sunday, right? No. Are they next Sunday?
The LBs is the next episode after this. The LBs is the next
The
episode.
17th. That is
Yes.
the 17th of December.
So in a few days' time, you've got a few days left at this point.
Yeah, get them in. It's the text suggestions. So just write what you think. And it could be anything, as Ben said. Formula One, non-Formula One, podcast specific, make it niche, whatever.
What, do you want to get us out of here, Sam? Finish us off?
Before we do that,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
go on,
go
mate.
for it, mate. Go on.
Hall of Famer we spoke about already.
Oh, yeah.
Beef.
Life update, is
She's
it?
got a life update for us, just because, we've got no submissions going on, but she's done one anyway, which we didn't even ask for, but thanks anyway, Beef. So if you were missing out on Beef, which I know at least 10 people probably are,
Thanks, Beef.
here you go. There's a whole minute of this, so strap yourselves in. We've not listened to this either, so please don't sweat, Beef.
Hello, this is your birthday beef update. Number one,
birthday beef.
it was my dad's 50th. We had a great big bash. It was fabulous. Lots of
Big bash beef.
family, friends, lovely time. Then, me, birthday beef, was my birthday on Sunday.
How many times did I say
am
birthday?
Now 26 years old. Boyfriend
Aged
beef
beef.
took me away on a surprise trip to Edinburgh. So I had a fabulous trip in Edinburgh with lots of food, and I was just spoilt by my boyfriend and by all my family friends. This weekend is boyfriend beef's dad's 60th. So I'll give you an update on that. Other update in my life is that thing I was working towards at work that I was really stressed. Passed, nailed it, fully qualified.
beef.
Love my life. That's it for now. Bye.
Wow.
Bye, Beef.
So many birthdays.
It's a nightmare for money, I imagine, this year in that family.
Good
Because
Lord.
Christmas and birthdays. Oh,
Big bash, Beef.
don't have kids in December, folks.
Cheers, Beef. Didn't ask, don't care. No, I'm only joking, Beef. Thank you very
Don't
much.
ask,
for
don't
the
care,
life
and
update.
ratio.
We are
Got
cool
him.
kids.
Oh, good.
Right.
Oh, good.
Steve Buscemi, could you please get us out of here?
Steve Buscemi. Right. So anyway, I've lost my mind now. You can call me that. Discord's in the description, folks. And again, getting your submission for Hall of Famer. We have Patreon as well, and there's lots of Patreon going on at the moment. As you're listening to this, we are getting ready to record Beer with Breaking and another Patreon episode. That's right. We're talking about 8 episodes this week, I think. It's silly.
It's a lot of episodes.
Sure.
So stay tuned for that as well. Also, there is the grand finale of our Discord Racing League is happening on the 17th as well. So if you're in the Discord, maybe get involved, chat to the races, having great fun. Follow us, Late Breaking F1. You can watch us on YouTube as well, Late Breaking F1. Subscribe. We're at the big 5K. Gonna hit the big 10K before Silverstone. I'm not sure what year, but it's coming, baby. And I think that's everything. Leave a 5-star review if your name's Harry Eid. We love you. We'll see you soon. In the meantime, I've been Samuel Sage.
I've been Ben Hocking.
And I've been Ben Hotchrist.
And remember, keep breaking late.
He's got a hot head.
Cooks Ben.